Good evening, guys. Thank you for joining us here on the Rios and Papi show.
Heck yeah.
And they all asked for Carlos to be voted off the island, so he's gone.
Yes, finally. About time. About time.
Used to pray for days like this. He abandoned us to go to the Astros game, so it's just us tonight. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. It's As you guys know, I'm Rios. I'm here with Papi. How you doing, man?
Ya tú sabes, bro. We were just talking about it. It's way too hot here in Texas.
Oh, bro, tell me about it. Just walking to the car just saps the life.
Dude, and we're still in the mid 90s, man. We haven't even hit triple digits yet.
Texas is just preheating right now.
It's preheating.
So sad.
We're not even cooking just yet, but you know, for now, let's just take it for what it is. One day at a time, basically. One day at a time.
Words to live by.
Yes, sir. So what are we doing today? What are we doing today?
All right, so for tonight's episode, we've got some breaking news in the NFL. We've got a quarterback that just signed a new extension. We'll go into that a little bit. And then we're also going to talk about the NFL.com article that came out today about the top quarterback wide receiver duos for the 2024 season. And then we'll touch a little bit on some top landing spots for a guy who still hasn't signed yet, Brandon Aiyuk.
Yes, that's gonna be interesting. I feel like it's gonna be kind of underwhelming at the end of the day where he does eventually land, but it's good to speculate.
Yeah, I think it really just depends on what he's looking for. Is he looking to secure the bag, or is he looking to go? I wouldn't say go to a contender because he's already on the best team in the NFC.
Correct.
So it's really going to depend where his priorities are at.
But I feel like I feel like he still wants to win. But we'll touch on it in a little bit.
Let's start off with the signing of Trevor Lawrence. He signed an extension yesterday.
So walk me through the extension. It's 5 years.
5 years, $275 million.
Jeez.
About a good chunk of that is guaranteed. So he's basically making $55 million annually, which puts him tied with Joe Burrow as the highest paid quarterback in the league. And it's been met with mixed. It's been a mixed bag as far as how people feel about it. Mostly Jaguars fans feels like it was deserved. Most everyone else, they feel was a bit of an overpay, especially considering the lack of production, the lack of the lack of success the last few seasons. What are your thoughts on it, Papi?
So it depends on from which side you're looking at it, right? Like I feel like if you are looking at it from Jacksonville side, it's like, you know, they picked this guy a few years ago. He is your franchise quarterback for better or for worse. I see a lot of people in the media and online, they sit in one or two camps. He's like, you either believe in him and the potential that's there and that he's going to be that guy who bring a championship to Jacksonville, or you think he's kind of like I don't think people think he's a bad quarterback. Yeah. I think like he's maybe hitting his ceiling right now. I love to bring back because I know in our other show you guys have touched on this before. Maybe he's not like the guy in maybe some of you guys' eyes, but he did take Kansas City to, you know, the bitter end there in the last playoff push. So we know that he can perform. It's just the consistency on there. Now, is he worth 55 millions? Honestly, from a neutral perspective, I would say no. Definitely no. If you know, people are comparing it with the Joe Burrow money. Joe Burrow has done more in less time.
Yeah, I think CBS brought up a graph earlier today, basically comparing the two because they're making the same amount of money.
Yes,
and bats are just ridiculous. They played the same amount of games because Burrow's missed some time with injuries.
Mm-hmm.
All the games they played, it's almost equal. It's about 50 for Lawrence and about 52 for Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
and I mean the touchdowns is almost double. Burrow's almost at 100 touchdowns, and Lawrence is much less. The turnovers is much higher for Lawrence. Passing yards, completions percentage, yards per game, yards per attempt. I mean, everything except for rushing statistics is in Joe Burrow's favor.
The thing is, if you look at it from Jacksonville's perspective, what else could you have really done?
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is the quarterback market is basically set by whoever signs their contract first, because that's going to be the market. That's the starting point. Whenever you go to negotiations, hey, you know, quarterback A signed for this much. I want at least that much, or if not more.
Yeah, if Jacksonville, you know, brought up to Lawrence like, hey, We love you, man. You're great. The Goldilocks. We love that. We love that. The way you throw that thing. Love that. But you're not Joe Burrow. So we're not gonna pay you that much. Let's say instead of 55 annually, let's call it, how much does Mahomes makes? 45? Let's call it an even 50. Just 50 million a year. Does Trevor sign for that? I feel like he does.
Yeah, I think so. I think his agent deserves a raise because that's got to be a masterclass in negotiation because he does not have the resume to demand that type of money.
Exactly. I feel like Jacksonville definitely overpaid. I don't know if they're just trying to show confidence in their guy, or they were just afraid somebody like who's desperate might try to take it from them.
I mean, so the way I view Trevor Lawrence, I view him as like a top 15 quarterback. He's not in that elite category, not in that top 10. He's like in between 11 and 15.
Yeah. In our last show when we talked about when we made our top 10 quarterbacks in the league, he was one of those guys that for me were like they weren't going to make the top 10, but he was in the conversation, maybe 12, 11,
upper teens, I would say.
Yeah,
right there. Like I said, he's not a bad quarterback, but he's a guy you can build around, but he's not a guy that's going to elevate the level of play of the guys around him. He's kind of one of those guys you got to have, kind of like a Brock Purdy. You got to have the right pieces in place.
Yeah, I feel like it's more building around him than him, making other players better. And we only say this because he hasn't really done that yet, right? Next year, with this new contract, maybe he gets a little bit more confidence and maybe throws less interceptions, more touchdowns. We could have had a completely different conversation next year. But when
it's living up to that contract,
the biggest thing is like because Joe Burrow is making the same amount of money, it makes you think, right? Like, is that really worth it? You're talking about the highest pay, like Lamar Jackson signed an extension. What was it? Last off season, only 52 million. He was already an MVP before. Only 52 million a year. Jalen Hurts signs an extension 51. He's made it to the Super Bowl, and he had a hell of a game.
He had a chance to win it. They were in the whole time. They weren't like getting blown out. Like they had a chance to win the game.
It was very back and forth. It was very, like you and I watched that one live, and like I was rooting for the Eagles. I'll say that. I'll bet that much.
Jalen Hurts is from Houston, so got to go hometown kid.
I mean, you got Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league. Only making 45 million. Obviously, he's been in the league longer.
A few years ago, but I think the Chiefs, that was a masterclass move with the Chiefs. They signed him early on, and they signed him for 10 years.
Definitely, and that guy is a for lifer. Like I do not see that guy leaving Kansas City anytime soon.
So I feel like it was stay with the one organization the whole career.
Yeah, out of the highest 10 paid quarterbacks in the league, he's the only one with a Super Bowl win, and he's got 3 of them. So
crazy,
it's ridiculous.
But that's the quarterback market. It just goes up every year, regardless of resume. Because before is if you perform, you get paid. Now it's just like I got to get paid as much as the next guy, and kind of makes you appreciate guys like Tom Brady because he always took less money to help keep them with a competitive roster year in year out.
And I feel like the more elite quarterbacks realize that that's the play, the more we're gonna see guys dominate like he did.
I mean, look at Mahomes. Mahomes realistically took less money. He could have easily asked for a whole lot more, and
definitely
they're still able to put pieces around them. They may not be superstars, but they are very good at drafting. They're very good at scouting, and they put together a complete roster, and they're able to compete year in and year out.
And he's shown that he doesn't need like elite wide receivers either.
I mean, that's the Andy Reid. That's the
Andy
Reid philosophy. Basically, they I forgot who his mentor was, but basically is if you have the quarterback in place, you can win with B plus guys as receivers. You don't need a Terrell Owens or a Jerry Rice out there.
Yeah, I mean you don't mind having those guys, but
yeah, you don't mind having
with somebody like Mahomes, you don't really necessarily need them.
Because they had that homer hitter when they had Tyreek Hill, and they let him go because they're like, hey, we can we can find guys and we'll put a roster together, and Mahomes will make them look like superstars.
Do you think this is just going to put more pressure on Lawrence?
Oh, most definitely, because he's going to have to try to live up to the contract. If the Jaguars, come out the gate slow or they miss the playoffs completely, it's going to raise a lot of questions. And then maybe they overpaid him a little bit, and maybe he's not who they thought they thought he was.
So
I think a lot of his hype comes from Clemson. Coming out, he was labeled as a generational quarterback,
yeah.
and he hasn't really lived up to the billing as of date. And I think the pressure is even on. It's going to be raised even higher now because you've gotten paid. Now we expect results.
So do you think? So let me ask you this: if Jacksonville makes the playoffs for the 4 out of the next 5 years, okay, does the contract, is would that make it a fair contract? Like, we signed you for 5 years, 275 million. I think it's like almost 200 guaranteed technically. But we made the playoffs for the next 5 years. Is that valid? Can he walk away from that contract and say, I did the best of what I could? I carried this team to playoff contention.
I think if you're the highest paid quarterback, the expectation is Super Bowl. Like, if we're giving this kind of money, because we expect you to take us to the promised land.
But like you said, though, it's about the market, though. It's how the market changes and everything. Like every couple of years, there's going to be one quarterback that just is the highest paid quarterback. But in the eyes of the league and the nation, he's exactly like we're talking about the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks. Mahomes is 10, tied with Kirk Cousins. And he is definitely the best in that whole list. You got Justin Herbert, you got Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson. Like, Mahomes is definitely the best and the most consistent of them all. I feel like, shout out to Trevor Lawrence. You got the bag. You're living the dream of millions of boys in America who just wanted to make it to the league and get that bag. But now, like Rio says, it's kind of time to,
because
show up.
Most of these guys, especially the guys that were like the number 1 overall pick, like by the year 3, you're expected to make that jump.
And that's the biggest thing, though. The fact that he was number 1 overall, that's the biggest thing. He's had that on his back since the moment he walked into the league. So now with this contract, it's going to be a little bit tougher to live up to that. But hey, like I said, if he can deliver, put up fix the numbers a little bit, do a little bit of a playoff push, maybe next year we're having a different conversation. If we do a top 10 ranking again, he might creep up on a few spaces. So
no, we'll see. Like I said,
but it's up to him to deliver now.
Yeah, because they have the pieces in place. Like they got Ingram. He's one of the top tight ends in the game. Etienne's really good running back.
Yeah.
And now we've got Brian Thomas Jr. in the draft. You still got Christian Kirk. Shows up when he's not injured. So they got the pieces in place. It really is up to Lawrence because the turnovers, those are on him. You can't blame those on anybody else. Interceptions, they may bounce off the receiver's hand into the defensive back's hands, but the fumbles, those are on him.
Those are definitely on him. He is a good rusher of the ball. It's just like the fumbling. Like you just got to protect the football a little bit more, man. But yeah, when you're looking at Burrow and you're looking at Lawrence, if I had to pay one of those guys $55 million a year, there's only one clear answer, and is Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
I think you guys had him at number 2 on your list, right? I think I had him.
Yeah,
top.
I
think I had him fourth.
Yeah, healthy Joe Burrow, like in a lot of people's eyes, second best guy in the league behind Mahomes.
Yeah, I think
isn't healthy.
I believe I had Lamar ahead of him, just because he has, done more.
Yeah,
obviously he's been here longer, but but Joe Burrow is right behind him now.
Like I said, I think most people's top 4 is the same guys, just in interchangeable order.
But I feel like Mahomes is first.
It's
just hard to argue. It's just hard to argue.
I would love to hear someone try to make the argument that he's not the best quarterback. I would love to be in the conversation. So why isn't he the best? Please.
Have you seen Daniel Jones, though?
Lawrence 2.0? It kills when they put up that graphic of him and Daniel Jones stats. I'm like, man, this guy's getting $55 million. It's got a lot to improve on.
I feel like the Giants would love to have Trevor Lawrence right now.
Oh yeah, like I said, he's not a bad quarterback. He'd be an upgrade over a number of quarterbacks in the league, but
Yeah,
like at least in that top 15 range. He's a decent NFL.
He could walk into at least 15, maybe 18 teams and be QB1 immediately.
Yeah, because he's been upgraded over a lot of teams. He's a above average NFL starter.
Yes. Well, hopefully it pans out for them. But now let's talk about the NFL.com article that came out. So it's about quarterback and wide receiver duos. Okay, we're not talking about the whole wide receiver core. It's like your top wide receiver and your quarterback duos ranked. And the way they did it in two. They kind of divided it up. Top 5 veteran, QB, and wide receiver. And veteran just means anybody who's been in the league more than a year. Basically, anybody who's not a rookie, right? And then the other top 5 was a duo with a rookie. It could be a rookie quarterback coming in, like Caleb Williams, and a veteran wide receiver, or it could be a veteran quarterback, like Aaron Rodgers, with a rookie wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
So
let's start with the first top 5. The
veteran one.
Yeah, the veteran combos.
Okay, so we'll go from 5 to first.
Yeah.
Okay. So number 5 on there, they have the Steelers with we believe is going to be Russell Wilson. They have Russell Wilson / Justin Fields on there, but we believe Russell Wilson is going to start.
Yeah, I think Russell's going to win the job. I mean, they got Justin Fields returning kicks. There's no way, unless Russell Wilson has like an absolutely abysmal training camp. There's no way he's not QB1 in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, like as long as if both are healthy, I feel like Russ starts the season.
Yeah.
Whether or not he finishes it, maybe
that's
halfway through. Yeah, that's a completely different thing. So it's going to be Russ and George Pickens. So what are your thoughts on that duo?
That's an interesting one, I think, because Russell Wilson, he showed glimpses last season. He's not the same Russ that he was, like 10 years ago in Seattle. Like he was one of the best at throwing that moonshot.
Yeah,
doesn't really have that anymore. But he still makes pretty smart plays. He's still able to move the ball. He buys time in the pocket, and he is not turnover prone. He does take care of the football. Last season, he only had like 8 interceptions.
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 interceptions and 26 touchdowns. So he's able to take care of the ball. It's just the situation in Denver is just when the coach doesn't believe in you, it's kind of hard to like.
It's reps. It's reps. Like when there's no like mutual, belief in
one another.
Like if both of you guys don't buy in, if everybody doesn't buy into the goal and the philosophy, it's never going to work out. It's the coaching staff, it's the players, everybody, the ownership, everybody needs to buy in.
You got to be in sync. If you're not in sync, it looks dysfunctional, as we saw in Denver. Like when
it was hard to watch.
Very hard, especially for a guy like Russell Wilson. Like he's like the consummate pro. He's just out there doing his job, saying the right things.
He is like a low key legend, right? Of the like you look at the last 10 plus years, he's been consistent name.
He's been a top 10 quarterback the majority of his career. I think that the first couple seasons when they had the Legion of Boom, they kind of carried them. But once those guys got older, it was all on Russell Wilson, and he showed up. Like he put up big numbers year in, year out. They just never really built a team around him.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Pickens though?
Pickens is interesting. Like it's kind of hard to gauge him just because of the lackluster quarterback.
The situation, it's been a weird situation for both of these players. So the fact that they have them top 5 duos. To me, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
because I feel like it's a lot of what ifs. Like they might click. Because I don't think Pickens is like a lights out, like wide receiver 1 in most teams type of player. No. Then again, we haven't seen the full potential there. Who was his quarterback last year?
We've seen glimpses. Last year it was
what's his name?
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett. I feel like with Russ, if everything works out, it's a definite upgrade. I feel like now this year we should be able to see more, less glimpses and more
Consistency.
consistency from him. Top 5, I feel like maybe it's a bit of a reach, but I'm not gonna go ahead and do the homework myself and look at every single duo either. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna believe them and say it's gonna be an okay. I feel like they're gonna have an average season. I feel like they might make the playoffs.
that's a tough division. That AFC North, it's a dogfight for 1 through 4. Because realistically, you have 14 that could make the playoffs.
Yeah, so like if everybody stays healthy in Pittsburgh, especially in that defense, we're talking about TJ mostly, they have a fighting chance for sure. But I feel like it's just gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's one of those teams where I think the defense is really going to carry them a lot. The offense, because we haven't seen a whole lot of explosive plays from them. Like Najee Harris is just hasn't looked like the Najee Harris we saw at Alabama. He's just a totally different guy.
I feel like there's been a drop off on him. I don't know what's going on. I feel like the potential is there.
It's
I just
there.
don't know what's going on.
I haven't seen it. And now that Deontay Johnson's gone, Pickens is undisputed number 1 receiver on the team.
Yeah.
So we'll see how he handles the pressure of being
having to carry.
Yeah.
Working with a brand new set of quarterbacks. I'm pretty sure they're going to have snaps. He's going to have snaps with both of them. So
yeah,
I guess
they're utilizing a lot of Wildcat to include Justin Fields because, it's a dynamic playmaker still. You got to be able to take advantage of his skill set.
Yeah, he can definitely still run the ball too. So, okay, we're going to move on to number 4. This is another bit of an interesting one. Is Aaron Rodgers and Mike Williams. So Rodgers coming back from an injury, an Achilles. Hopefully, if he stays healthy, I feel like he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Then again, I haven't seen him play in forever. So I don't know if he comes back guns blazing or it's just gonna be like it's just gonna take time to really get the gears moving over in New York. But I don't think this is a bad duo. Like I feel like you could probably put anybody with Rodgers and you could be a top 5 duo in the league. Mike Williams, I think, is pretty solid. I feel like the Jets are going to be an interesting to watch. I wish they would have been healthy last year. I feel like last year it was like anybody's game to come out on that side of the bracket. So it's going to be interesting, man. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Mike Williams is one of those dudes. It's just like just injuries. Same thing with Rodgers last few years.
Same thing. It's the biggest thing. But with a lot of these veteran players, a lot of it is the injuries, man.
But I'm curious to see Mike Williams on that god awful MetLife Field's turf, because
and that's the biggest thing, right? That's one of the biggest things. It's something that we've been talking about for forever. It feels like,
but not just us, like people around the league, players
hate playing there.
Yeah, like it's not just us or like other fans. It's the actual players themselves. Coaches, they're all complaining about.
If I'm a player, I'm taking a sick day that day.
Right.
We're going to MetLife. I'm like, I'm not feeling it today, coach. I ate something. That's a bad sushi.
All it took was the World Cup coming to America for them to change out the field in 2 years.
Oh yeah, they better.
But no, I think it's an interesting deal because Mike Williams is definitely one of the top number 2 guys.
Yeah,
when he's healthy, because he can win those 50-50 balls. He can win those jump balls. It's just the consistency and staying healthy. We didn't get to see a whole lot of him with Justin Herbert just because he was always hurt. Like he'll have a big game, then he'll disappear, and then he'd be back on the injured reserve. So I'm curious to see what he does with Rodgers because there he's going to be the number 2 guy behind what's his name? Drawing a blank here.
On the Jets?
Yeah. Ohio State guy.
The college means nothing to me. Garrett Wilson.
There you go.
Yeah.
I forgot his name.
How did we forget his name? Yeah.
I know his name.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? But no, like Garrett Wilson's the number one guy there. That's undisputed. But having a solid number two guy, and then you also got, Brees Hall at running back, and they have the tight ends as well. Like, they have a lot. Aaron Rodgers has a lot of weapons at his disposal. So if he can stay healthy, that should be a fun team to watch.
And with Rodgers at the helm, they're gonna get a lot of targets. Like that man is not afraid to pass the ball, by any means, and his accuracy has stayed elite even in these later years. It just depends on how they both come back from injuries.
Well, it's kind of funny because how we mentioned with Andy Reid, because Matt LaFleur was under Andy Reid, and they're under your same concept. If you have the quarterback, you can win with B+ guys. Like in Green Bay, they never signed superstar receivers. Like outside of Devontae Adams, they haven't had like a superstar receiver for quite some time.
Yeah, but they were always paying their quarterbacks at Green Bay.
I mean, because they went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to now it looks like Jordan Love is going to be the guy in Green Bay. And
I don't know. We got to see about this Jordan Love guy. I'm still not fully convinced.
So on paper, this is probably the best arsenal of weapons that Rodgers has had in quite some time.
Definitely
I would paper, all the way to like 2009 when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so, if Rodgers was 5 years younger, I feel like this would be number one.
Yeah, because on that that team that won the Super Bowl, they had Donald Driver, they had Greg Jennings in his prime, they had Ryan Grant at running back. They had a solid team, man.
It's crazy that Rodgers only made it one time, huh?
Yeah,
it's crazy how elite and just elite he was.
Probably one of the most talented quarterbacks that ever played the game, but it just something in the playoffs. It just always came apart. It's hard to explain. Like you show someone Aaron Rodgers, highlights and film. They're like, I mean, this guy must have won a bunch of Super Bowls.
Yeah, this guy must have been like the best of the best, and he won like what 3 MVPs.
Yeah.
So like,
that first Hall of Famer, but it's bizarre how it just kind of fell apart in the playoffs.
Yeah, and also
it's kind of similar to Peyton Manning. Like great in the regular season, but in the postseason, it was just a different quarterback.
At the end of the day, everybody had to go through Brady at some point.
Yeah,
and that was the biggest mountain of all. Kind of like with Mahomes now. So
Mount Brady, Mount Mahomes, like man.
maybe we'll talk about Mount CJ in a few years.
Right.
Number 3 on the ranking for the veteran duos is Patrick Mahomes and Marquise Brown. Do we need to say anything? How is this not number 1?
I think because Marquise Brown's been inconsistent because he's on his 3rd team now and he hasn't been in the league that long. He just has a problem sticking around. I don't know what it is. I know he's had some injuries, but I really can't figure it out because he started off with Lamar Jackson, went from Lamar Jackson to Kyler Murray. I know he had his issues in Arizona with Kyler missing time and going through different quarterbacks. Now he's in his 3rd home with the Kansas City Chiefs. If he can't make it work with Patrick Mahomes, I mean, at this point, it's a you problem because there's no way you can't look at with Mahomes.
And he doesn't need to do anything, which is the craziest part. All he needs to do is catch the ball. If you catch the ball, you're better than 99% of the receivers that played with Mahomes last year.
Yeah, because the pecking order is going to be, Kelsey's going to be your number 1 target.
Yes,
then Rice, and then from there, it's up to you to kind of stand out and get open so Mahomes can get you the ball because he's going to put it in the wrong spot. You just got to be ready.
Exactly. If you have, if week 1 you have a solid game, he's going to trust you. Again, how is this not number 1? Because Mahomes has proved time and time again that he doesn't need big name wide receivers to win it all. And I feel like he's leagues and bounds ahead of everybody else.
I think the reason it's not number 1 is because he's basically like the 3rd or 4th option on that team. Because number 1's going to be Kelsey. Kelsey can get the lion's share of the targets. Then once Rashee Rice comes back from suspension, he'll probably get 2nd most.
Probably, yeah.
3rd is 3rd and 4th is up for grabs basically. Because you got guys that have been there for a while, and Mahomes spreads the ball out, so it's kind of you really gotta once your number is called, you really got to show out if you want to see the ball because this is just a lot of mouths to feed in Kansas City because Mahomes spreads the ball out.
He does. He does. He's that guy. We know that. But let's move on to the next one, which I feel is more interesting. Is Atlanta Falcons Kirk Cousins? Weird to say, still,
Right.
and Drake London. I'm a big fan of Drake London, and I feel like he hasn't been able to realize his whole potential just yet. This is what, year 3 for him now?
Yeah, it's one of those things. Is you just had like a carousel of quarterbacks that just weren't. They weren't, NFL level starters.
Yeah,
They're foreign NFL level starters.
and we know that Kirk isn't going to be the guy for the future. Obviously,
He's not long term.
Yeah, he's not long term, but this might be.
Is he on track to start week 1?
Who, Kirk?
Yeah.
I mean, we still got plenty of time, but let's see.
Because coming off an Achilles, I don't know.
I mean, Rodgers is starting week 1, right?
Well, I mean, Rodgers has been out since week 1 of last year.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy to say.
Because Drake London is one of those dudes. Like he excels in the middle of the field, and that's where Kirk Cousins likes to throw the ball. Like Justin Jefferson ate whenever Cousins was thrown to the middle of the field because that's his sweet spot.
He's got one of those builds too that like the guy he can just win 50-50 balls at will. Basically, he just has to have the consistent amount of targets.
They've had a weird offensive philosophy because you've got guys like him. You got Kyle Pitts. You got Bijan Robinson, but they had a running back by committee. Even though you got a guy like Bijan, and then Kyle Pitts is out there doing cardio. I'm like, I never understood their offensive philosophy.
So now, and that's why with getting Cousins in, I feel like right now they are at the best setup to succeed. And I feel like that's what Atlanta thinks as well. That's why they made the move. I feel like paying him all that money was an overpay for Cousins, especially coming back from an Achilles tear. But if that was the best guy that you could have gotten, dude, you could have done a lot worse.
Yeah, he's one of those like elite game managers. Like he won't lose you the game, and he'll put up great numbers. He just needs the right supporting cast around him. Because those guys are already, they're very talented. They don't need their games elevated. They just need a guy to get them the ball.
I'm sorry, shit, I got some stuff going on. Yeah, I know, but we have to do it fucking live. Yeah, I know. Let me just take this off.
So professional.
You know me, brother. Yeah, no, but I'm a big fan of what Atlanta's doing, man. Like you said, like they got Kyle Pitts, Bijan, who's like, if everything keeps working out for him, he's gonna be the number 1 running back in this league. I feel like the talent is there, and we've seen what he can do. And Atlanta a couple of years ago was one of the best running teams in the league, and then they get Bijan, and I'm just like, oh, it's wraps for everybody. And then they decided to run the ball a little bit less, and I'm just like, bro, what are y'all doing? But now with the philosophy changing a little bit, I feel like everybody in Atlanta is gonna eat. I feel like Drake London is gonna succeed. And I feel like after a season like the one that he's gonna have, I feel like he's gonna be one of those wide receivers that's gonna get the bag in the next couple of years when his
I think this might be the year he crosses that 1,000-yard threshold. He hasn't hit it yet, but I think this should be the year that he hits it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he hits double-digit touchdowns and 1,000 yards. Yeah, like I'm really rooting for the guy. I'm really rooting for the guy.
Yeah, I think it all really boils down to if Cousins stays healthy, because I don't know if Michael Penix is ready to actually, start if Cousins goes down.
Probably not, but I wouldn't be upset about that either. And I feel like Atlanta has the same thought, because they wouldn't have drafted him if they didn't think it would be a possibility that Kirk doesn't finish the season. And Phoenix, there's a lot of potential there. I've seen some film. Like, I'm not a college football watcher, but once he got drafted and I saw everybody like freaking out about it, I just had to go back, watch some film, and the guy's actually.
Well, the talent's there. The problem I think a lot of people had was his age and him sitting, because
the timeline is a bit weird, but
because if let's just say Cousins plays out his contract, doesn't get hurt, plays the full 2 or 3 years,
and I feel like Atlanta is fine with that.
Penix will be almost 30 years old.
Correct, but I feel like if Cousins stays healthy and delivers, I think Atlanta doesn't care about Phoenix, being 30 years old by the time that contract is over.
We'll see. It's an interesting thing to watch. I'll say that much. It's an
Yeah,
interesting.
we'll have to see how it develops. But I feel like Atlanta, Drake London, Kirk Cousins, higher than Mahomes, Marquise. Bit of a toss-up.
Yeah, I think mainly because Drake London is a little bit more established than Hollywood Brown.
But Mahomes is the GOAT. So I don't know. I don't know how you value all that, how you weigh in, but all right, let's move on.
Well, number one, which shouldn't be a shock.
It's a bit of a weird one because so it's CJ and Stephon Diggs of the Houston Texans.
Mhm.
In my eyes, CJ is basically still a rookie, but I know he's not. He's in year 2 this season. But number one, CJ Stephon Diggs. What do you think?
Well, because I think out of that list, out of those receivers, Stephon Diggs is the most accomplished
It's
and
the best. I would say the best one. Yeah,
he's the best receiver and the most accomplished out of that list. So there's not really a question mark with him. I think with him is basically the pecking order as far as the receivers go. As we mentioned on previous shows, like we have him, anywhere between receiver number 1 to receiver number 3.
Yeah.
But,
if we just pretend that he's going to be wide receiver number 1,
Mhm.
I feel like he ranks like with the guys that we listed. I feel like he's definitely the best. CJ, put him behind Mahomes, put him behind Rodgers. I would put him ahead of Kirk and Russ / Justin Fields. So I feel like him and Stephon being number 1, I feel like it's fair. I feel like it would be fair in most people's eyes. We still got to see Rodgers play with the Jets, something we really haven't seen. And Mahomes is that guy, but Stephon Diggs is, like you said, way more established than Brandon.
And he's going to put up numbers. I think he's probably going to maybe not more, higher numbers than say like Drake London. That's going to be wide receiver 1. I think they put him number 1. That obviously because he's the more established receiver, but also like they're interesting. Like you're not sure if what his numbers are going to look like, if he's going to have, because he's not going to the same number of targets he did in Buffalo.
The thing is that the way CJ goes for the long ball a lot of times, you could argue that even if he's wide receiver number 2, maybe wide receiver number 3, he could still eclipse the 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's definitely.
Yeah, I think with those long balls, I think that's going to be more of like a Nico Collins.
A Nico Collins, yeah. But if you're a defense, right? If you're playing defense, you got Nico running past you. You got Tank Dell on the wing. Who's covering Stephon Diggs? Like somebody's gonna be open.
He's an elite route runner, especially in the middle of the field. You put like your third.
He's gonna create a lot of space.
Linebacker on him. He's gonna eat, especially in those third down situations, the short yardage. Like he's gonna win those one-on-one matchups every single time.
Yeah.
And if you line him up on the outside, he could still beat most corners. He's not the same Stephon Diggs he was a couple of years ago, but he could still beat most corners in this league in one-on-one matchups. And if you double him, you just leave, Nico and Tank Dell in single coverage, and Schultz.
And Schultz, yeah. If we forget about Schultz, man. But what do you think of that ranking? Remember, this was the veteran duo, if you want to say that.
I agree with it being number 1.
Yeah.
Mainly because, like I said, we know Stephon Diggs he's going to put up his numbers. Well, it's going to be interesting to see with him doing it with, possibly not being the top option, because they haven't listed as the number 1 option for this list purposes. But it remains to be seen where once they start actually playing, where he ranks in the pecking order.
The thing is, there's a lot of other duos that come to mind. Like I thought about Tua and Hill, like Tyreek. You got Burrow, Chase.
Well, this list is guys that are new to the team,
I guess. But when you're naming like duos or whatever, I feel like
this is new duos. So Tua and Tyreek wouldn't be a new duo.
Correct. I know, but like when like this just asks like opens like a bigger discussion about what are the actual best quarterback to wide receiver duos. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like
it'd be Mahomes and a pizza boy. I mean, He'll go to the stands. Hey, kid, you want to play receiver?
Mahomes and any fan.
Basically.
Okay, so let's move on to the other top 5 ranking, and these are the rookie veteran combos. So it could be a rookie quarterback with a veteran wide receiver, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. And starting number 5, the Washington Commanders, which I never thought would be in any top 5 list.
Right.
At least not right now. With Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin.
Scary Terry.
I mean, I guess
McLaurin's one of those underrated guys because it's another one of those guys that just has not had consistent or
he hasn't, but
he still puts up numbers, but he's very underrated because the Commanders aren't on national TV a lot. He's not super flashy, and they haven't had a good quarterback in man. When was the last good one that you can say for them? Like Alex Smith? Like this has been a revolving door. And Jaden Daniels comes from LSU, and he put up, big numbers when he was there. And he's, early, top 5 draft pick. So a lot of expectations from him, which is, fair.
Is there a lot of expectations for him going to the
Commanders? There was talk with is it either going to be, him number 1 or Caleb number 1. I mean, honestly, everyone knew it was going to be Caleb, but, it's just to stir stuff up. People like, maybe Jaden Daniels goes number 1. So the talent's there. The potential is there. And McLaurin is a good security blanket. He can win those one-on-one matchups. He's a good route runner. He just needs the targets. Last season with Sam Howell, he didn't really get the targets he should have gotten because Sam Howell would just check down artists. We would just throw really short, and now you got a quarterback that's able to make all the throws. It's just getting past some of those rookie mistakes is going to be the thing with Jaden Daniels.
I'm going to take your word for it. I didn't watch a lot of Commanders last year, and who could blame me?
You weren't missing much.
I know that I wasn't missing much. But the next duo, that one is interesting. Rookie J.J. McCarthy with Justin Jefferson in Minnesota.
I mean, Jay Jettis is the best receiver in the league.
Yes, I would say so. Like people like to throw other names around. Jamar Chase when healthy, Stephon Diggs. We talked about him plenty. Jay Jettis, man, Justin Jefferson. He is something else. And with Kirk Cousins, I feel like in Minnesota, they were always just like, I feel like one piece away. Like it was like they just couldn't get over that hump. But JJ McCarthy was another name, and during the draft that people say, what if out of left field he goes number 1,
which was bizarre to me because I watched a lot of the Michigan games and I just didn't see it, man. That team was carried. It's a Harbaugh team. It's carried by the defense and the running game,
and that's why I feel like, that's why I feel like there's not gonna be a lot of like expectation going in. I feel like Minnesota is no longer on try to win now. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is like elite, and he's gonna want to win. So I don't know how much longer he will be in Minnesota, unless JJ comes out, like has a CJ like season where he just puts up numbers, like ridiculous numbers. Maybe he'll stay and try to win there. But honestly, if it ends up not working out, I can definitely see them try to trade him, or maybe he just walks. I don't know what his contract is looking like at the moment, but
it's probably gonna be around like $35 million a year.
Probably. So I don't know. Like I feel like this has the potential to work and be fun. Like this has the potential to be a good duo moving forward if JJ can come in and deliver.
I think it's one of those boom or bust options because
yes.
He can either come out, guns blazing and light it up, or he can, be a less talented Kirk Cousins and just not win games, not get over that hump. So losing's not fun. Like, these guys, they want to win. Like, as much as they want to get paid, they also want to win.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of hit like a point sometimes where it's like, if I'm not going to win, let me just at least get paid.
Yeah.
So I can see that maybe if they do an extension and he gets a huge bag, maybe he'll stay. But I don't know, man. Like Minnesota's one of those teams where, like,
They got some pieces of it because they got him. They got
yeah, like it's an okay team. They're not like in full rebuild, like after losing Kirk Cousins or anything like that.
now they
They're
got Aaron Jones at running back from the Packers.
yeah, no, it's interesting. It's gonna be interesting for sure.
'Cause I was kind of surprised they let Dalvin Cook leave. I mean, it makes sense, after we saw the season he had, he just didn't look the same. But like, I guess they assumed that Madison would be able to replicate that, because anytime the Dalvin Cook went down, Madison would put up big numbers. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, we can just plug and play with the running back. No, once teams a game plan for Madison, it just wasn't the same. Well, they went out and made an upgraded running back, so it should alleviate some of the pressure on McCarthy. Like I said, it's going to be up to him to get the ball to his guys because you got TJ Hawkinson, a tight end, you got your two receivers on the outside. Like, you have the pieces in play to be successful. It's really it's going to be on him and the play calling to set him up for success.
Yeah, I feel like he's one of those guys who would have really like flourish under like a veteran quarterback, like a good one, for maybe like a year or two
Yeah, I think he should
before
have.
before walking into a situation like this. But hey, it's the big leagues now. It's the NFL. You walk in, you're probably gonna be starting week one. Like, that's the dream.
Here's the keys. Here you go.
Yeah, here's the keys. Like that's the dream. So it's gonna be up to him to deliver. That's one duo and one quarterback that I'm definitely gonna keep my eye on for next year. Moving on, Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen and Keon Coleman. Josh Allen is another one of those guys who just elite. They haven't, Buffalo hasn't been able to get over the hump, but with the hump is as big as
Mahomes.
Mahomes, it's. I mean, you can't really fault him for that. But Keon Coleman, I feel like it's gonna be good. Like Josh Allen is he's still gonna run the ball incredibly well. So like the wide receivers are not gonna have the pressure of like, oh, we need 10 yards. It's third down. Like, oh, I'm definitely going to target, like, all the pressure's on me, all the eyes are on me. I need to catch this ball. No, because Josh Allen is talented enough to, push the team into a winning record. But I feel like he's gonna, like, if you're a rookie wide receiver coming into the league, and you come to a situation where you're playing with one of the best, probably top, in my eyes, top 3 quarterbacks in the league, I feel like you couldn't be in a better situation than that, unless you're, with the Kansas City Chiefs. So I feel like it's going to be interesting. What do you make of that?
It's good. Yeah, no, you're definitely right. Definitely interesting because, for the last few years, Stephon Diggs has been the number one target.
Yeah.
I think last season they kind of shifted offensive philosophies and he saw a lot less targets, which people thought, oh, he's having, he's past his prime. He's declining. No, they kind of, I want to say it was around week 8 or week 9, they switched offensive philosophies and they kind of ran the ball a little bit more with the running back instead of having Josh Allen trying to run it every time. And with James Cooks, they had, success. Like, they had success moving the ball. They focused more on the short passing game, having, the receivers block a little bit more. And, it worked out well for them until the playoffs because, they ran into Mahomes again.
Yeah, no, the playoffs is going to be a different thing. But I feel like during the regular season, I think, like, this kid is really going to excel. He's really good at contested catches. And, I feel like Josh Allen is going to have to trust his wide receivers a lot this time around because he doesn't have, like, Stephon Diggs to bail him out.
You don't have reliable anymore. You
don't have one of the top 3 wide receivers in the league anymore. So he's going to have to trust the rest of the core a lot more. So I feel like he's going to spread the well. I don't think he's going to be like definite number 1, number 2, number 3 type of thing. I feel like the pecking order there can fluctuate depending on who's hot.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who the number 1 receiver is, for the Bills, because there's really not an established guy. Like, Dalton Kincaid had a good season last year, but he's not, an established superstar. Like, they could change this year.
Yeah, and
nobody there really.
The only bad thing about this situation, is that whoever the number 1 guy becomes or comes out of this, they're gonna be compared to Stephon. So it's gonna be like that thing. Like, can you take in the pressure of becoming that guy and try to be successful at Buffalo, or are you gonna break under pressure?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how the defenses play them. Like, do they double the rookie or do they double Kincaid? It'll be interesting to see how they kind of mix and match those on defense and see play them.
I feel like they're gonna attack Josh Allen a lot more. They're gonna try to make.
I can see a lot of blitzes coming this year.
Yeah, I can definitely see them trying to force his hand into trying to make a split second decision, and I feel like that's how
he's had issues with turnovers his entire career.
exactly. So we'll see how they fare. It's gonna be interesting. I know we keep repeating the word, but like a lot of these duos, especially with the rookies, it's a lot of wait and see because we don't know how the game is going to translate from college to the NFL.
Because some guys they come out just don't lose a stride from college to the NFL. And some guys take a bit of an adjustment period.
Some guys are the guy in college and they get drafted number 1 overall, and then they're asked to deliver, kind of like number 2 right here, the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams and DJ Moore. In years past, going into Chicago, and there was a lot of like, if you're a quarterback going into Chicago, there's a lot of like, what's the team gonna look like? Is this team really the best fit for the guy? Like, if he doesn't succeed, is it his fault? Is it the team's fault? Like,
yeah,
but Chicago this year, it's low key on paper. It's low key good. I feel like some people are sleeping on them a little bit.
I mean, Chicago hasn't historically been a great quarterback team. I think Jay Cutler is their all-time leading passer, which is
probably. But I feel like Caleb, it's a good.
I mean, if he lives up to the billing, he should easily be the break all the Bears passing records.
And when you have somebody like DJ Moore, come on,
because he was balling out last year. Even though Justin Fields barely threw the ball, when they needed him to make plays, he was making plays. He was winning those matchups.
Yeah, I remember, what was it, 2 years ago on fantasy? He was killer for me. Which, by the way, we need to hit on fantasy again this year.
Yeah, that's the reason I watch a lot of like college games and out of market games, just to do my little homework on to see who's.
I mean, he's gonna be my sleeper tight end right here.
Basically.
Anybody who picked Sam Laporta last year.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. I thought he would have an okay season. I didn't think he'd have the season that he had, but hey.
Dude, it was definitely
Jared Goff went off last year too, so
yeah, helped. So man, it's really gonna be something to see. Keep an eye on the Chicago Bears team, like Caleb Williams, if he's all that he's hyped up to be, because I don't think, like, people say he's good, right? I don't think the hype is like, oh, he's the next generational face of the league type of thing. I don't think he is.
I think the hype is a little overblown.
But I think he, like, if everything works out for him in maybe 5 years, he could be top 10 to maybe top 7 quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, the potential's there.
From potential alone, yeah.
Yeah. Because watching USC last year, he struggled big time against the ranked opponents. Because the defenses keyed on him and they slowed him down. And he had weapons at USC. Is just, I don't know, like those backyard football moves. They don't work against real defenses. Like you can do it against the weaker teams in the Pac-12. When he played against the ranked opponents, those backyard football moves didn't work.
Yeah,
and he's going to have to learn to play from the pocket in the NFL and not rely on that backyard stuff, because unless you're Patrick Mahomes, it's not going to work 9 times out of 10.
And I hope if he does start out slow, I hope that it doesn't turn into a Bryce Young type of situation where they were writing him off completely after a few bad games. I feel like any rookie quarterback that's a number 1 pick has a lot of pressure going into a situation where he's expected to deliver. So I just hope that, it doesn't get blown out of proportion if Chicago starts, 0-3, the beginning of the season.
Or something like that. I think hopefully the play callers, put some plays in the playbook to kind of utilize his skill set and, make it a little bit more comfortable with him until he gets, more comfortable playing it like out of a pro system.
Yeah. With a rookie quarterback, I mean, you're not expected to make the playoffs and compete immediately out the gate. Like, he might be one of those guys where you have to give him 2-3 years before he can really shine.
Unfortunately, that's not today's NFL. Like, you're expected to perform, week one.
Yeah, and
Because
that's what, and that and
they would sit. Now they're starting week one.
yeah, but then that's how like a lot of people then start to panic and trading players away and breaking up teams that maybe they were just one piece away, and then you end up paying Trevor Lawrence $1 billion every year. So I don't know. We'll see how that develops. Trying to wrap it up here with the number one rookie wide receivers. Rookie veteran combos for wide receiver and QB is going to be the Arizona Cardinals with Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr.
Not surprising.
He looks like a beast.
Easily going to be up. I think it's going to be between him and Caleb Williams as far as offensive rookies of the years, if Caleb lives up to the billing. But I think Harrison Jr. is probably the safer bet. I mean,
if Kyler can find him consistently, maybe run the ball a little bit less.
Yeah.
If Arizona can get the playbook to play to maximize both of their skill sets, I feel like Marvin runs away with rookie of the year.
Yeah, because he at Ohio State, and that was a team with loaded receivers. He was a tier above those guys.
Correct.
Bunch of first round receivers on those teams, and he was above all of them. He's like one of those guys that's going to be like a Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, just out the gate, one of the top receivers in the league.
Yeah, and we got to remember how Kyler and Hopkins was, when Hopkins, after his suspension, when he was playing and he was healthy, like he revitalized his career. He got the move to Tennessee right after. Like, if Marvin Harrison Jr. can just start his career like that just a little bit, I'm not saying he has to be DeAndre Hopkins out the gate or anything like that, but if Kyler and him can click from the get-go, dude, because
that team, undisputed wide receiver number one,
exactly,
should get the lion's share of targets
next year. If they're doing, if this article comes out again, that could be like top 4, top 3 veteran duos.
Yeah,
this guy can be the next big thing, and I hope I'm not jinxing it by any means. This guy looks like the real deal.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if he, finished in top 10 receiving yards this year or catches.
Definitely.
Would not shock me at
all. Before the show started, we said that we wanted to keep it short this week, but we're almost at an hour. So
time flies when you're having fun.
We were going to talk about potential landing spots for Brandon Aiyuk. You said you wanted to touch on it a little bit, so hit me with it. What are your ideas for that?
So for me, I think there's 3 ideal landing spots. Number one, I'll keep it real simple.
So ideal or realistic?
I would say ideal.
Okay.
Realistic, like I said, it depends on what his priorities are, but I think ideal, stay in San Francisco.
Okay.
That's the best. That's the team's going to give you the best chance of
winning. That's the easiest decision, I would say.
They got to find a way to, come to an agreement on contract terms, because it's a loaded team.
If you want to win, that's where you stay. Unless you can go to the Chiefs or
unless you're going to another
maybe Baltimore.
Yeah, unless you're going to another contender.
Yeah.
Don't chase the bag going to a bad team.
Definitely.
So, but let's just say it doesn't work out for San Francisco, and they ended up, he ends up leaving. Next spot I would say would be the Patriots, because you got a rookie quarterback. They're going to be able to give him the bag, and he'd be the undisputed number 1 receiver on that team.
So ideal in that aspect would be ideal for him in the fact that he'll get
financials. Yeah. Financials, targets, all that.
What up, Watkins? I don't know when you sent this, but what up?
Appreciate you, Watkins.
The 49ers
so basically
they paying everybody else. I mean, that is the biggest question there for the 49ers.
The salary cap is a myth. It's a myth. Look at the New Orleans Saints. They are in salary cap hell year after year, but they somehow
they're still getting people through the door. I have no idea.
It's a
But I
myth.
mean, there's a reason why they're still bad, though.
So, like I said, scenario one is if you're about winning, stay with the 49ers. If you're looking for the bag, that would be scenario number two with the Patriots.
Okay.
I think out of the contenders, I don't think anyone would sign him or give him what he's looking for, just because Baltimore is kind of set. Not a receiver, but they're not really a passing
They're
team.
basically, they're basically the way they're built right now. That they're just going all in on that. So I don't think they're going to add any huge pieces like Brandon Aiyuk.
And the Chiefs, like I mentioned with Andy Reid, like from the philosophy, you don't need a 1A receiver. Like you can win with a bunch of B guys.
Yeah.
I don't see them going there either. Maybe Buffalo, but
see,
again,
I thought like I don't know how the financials would work with Buffalo, but I feel like that would be an ideal spot in a way that he can still be a contender with an elite quarterback. And because we just discussed that a little bit ago, there's not a
established number
one there. So he walks through the door, he's immediately number one there.
Yeah.
And with somebody like Josh Allen, you could do a lot worse. So I feel like that would be, if I'm him and maybe the 49ers can't pay me for whatever reason, right? Because when like Bakken said, they're paying everybody else. If that's not feasible, I'm looking at somebody like Buffalo if they can make it work. Yes, the Patriots is enticing because you will be the guy there and you will get the bag as well. But I don't think the Patriots are competing anytime soon.
Yeah, that's probably about two or 3 years.
2 or 3 years away, and at that point, like, where does he rank at that point in 2 to 3 years in the future?
Now, if Drake May is the guy, I mean.
If that's a big if. You already know that Buffalo are contenders. There's not a lot of ifs there. It's like whether or not you can beat Mahomes, right? And maybe a healthy Joe Burrow, right? If you can beat those guys, then you will be champion. But if you go to the Patriots or any team that is not really a contender, kind of like Hopkins to Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, you got paid, but what does that really do for the league, really? Because it didn't do anything for Tennessee. It didn't do anything for Hopkins in the ways of winning.
Yeah. Winning.
Exactly. So it's just like it would be like a nothing thing if he went there. Like if he went somebody like who's not really a contender but could surprise some people, Tampa Bay, maybe Dallas, but they got CeeDee Lamb. So why would you want somebody?
If they're not going to pay CeeDee Lamb, I don't see them paying Aiyuk.
Yeah, so it's just like the Giants, maybe. I don't know. You might as well go to the Patriots. You're probably better off going to the Patriots. But it's just I don't know, man. I feel like staying with the 49ers is the smart thing to do, but they just got to figure out like contract situations.
I mean, if anything, take a shorter deal and just become a free agent in 2 years. Do it like with Nico. Sign a 3-year deal, and you're still in your 20s. You're still in your prime. You can go.
Yeah. When does what's his face? I'm blanking. 49ers quarterback.
Purdy.
Yeah, Brock Purdy. When does his rookie contract?
I think they got to pay him in 2026.
So 2 more years, right? 2 more seasons, basically.
Well, they could extend him after next year because he was a 7th round pick, so he's not under that,
Yeah, exactly. So they don't have to. So in theory, like you said, take the shorter deal, 1 or 2 years. You'll be like another piece in this 49ers machine, and Brock doesn't need to get paid, and we know he's going to get paid because he's been consistent enough for the 49ers for them to be like, okay, he's our guy for the next, if he stays healthy for the next 10 years, he's going to be our guy. Mm-hmm. So if you could just stay here for the rest of his rookie deal, I feel like that's the smart thing to do for him.
Yeah, then so if I was a receiver, that's something that I would do if I have a guy playing on a rookie contract, like just sign a shorter deal and try to win whether the quarterback's not making the majority of the money on the team. Because once those quarterbacks get their big deals, like
that's when,
I would say keep an eye on Jacksonville. They're gonna have trouble putting pieces around Lawrence because he's eating up so much cap space.
55 a year, man.
He's
55 a
over
year.
he's over 25% of the cap space. I mean, the salary cap goes up year after year, but like, he's eating a good chunk of it. And you still got they paid Josh Allen the defensive end. You have other guys that
Yeah,
can
they
make
did. Yeah.
extensions, and like it's a tricky thing to navigate when you have the quarterbacks getting paid what they're getting paid right now.
I feel like Brandon Aiyuk in Buffalo would be interesting, though.
I think that probably would be if he can't make it work in San Francisco, that's the best spot he can go to, really.
Probably. Like I said, I don't know where they're sitting with cap space and everything. I know after letting Stephon Diggs walk.
Well, I think because he has a huge dead cap hit, so I don't even think they could be able to afford him.
You don't think so?
Not with that dead cap space they have right now, because I want to say it's like $30 million that Buffalo has.
If you were a betting man, week 1, where is Aiyuk at? I would say the 49ers. I feel like they figure it out. I feel like they figure it out.
I think that's the ideal spot for him, and it makes the most logical sense.
Watch him end up in freaking the Saints or something. Somehow.
Actually, that wasn't my third pick. My third pick was going to be the Steelers. The team that has.
See, I thought about it, but I don't feel like the Steelers are in win now mode. I feel like there's a lot of things that they still need to figure out. Because if they were in win now mode, they wouldn't have Russell and Justin Fields.
I mean, there was really no one from the get because they weren't picking high enough in the draft to get one of the top guys. They, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of people in free agency.
Ah, man, yeah, but you could have done something else. I don't know, man.
They're in a tough spot because they're almost like quarterback purgatory because, Russell is not going to be the long-term answer. Justin Fields, I mean.
I really want to see Justin Fields. Like, I hate that they got both, if that makes sense. Like, I wanted Russell out of Denver because I like Russell.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see him like in a better situation.
He can still play quarterback.
Yeah, no,
he needs to be in the right team.
Yeah, I wanted to see him in a better situation, right? Patriots or something. But I hate that they got both because Justin Fields was another one of those guys is like, okay, maybe this guy, if he was in a different situation, he could flourish. But now he's in a situation where he's gonna be sharing the snaps.
He's basically going to be the backup quarterback unless, Russell Wilson his skill set falls off a cliff or he gets injured. So
exactly.
He's going to be the gadget guy. He's going to be like what Jeff Driscoll was for the Texans, playing, the second quarterback role, the Wildcat, returning kicks.
He's going to be the Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy Gloves.
Dude, I love Teddy Bridgewater, man. He's a legend in my books.
I'm surprised he plays a role similar to Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
Just putting him everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a quote unquote backup quarterback, but they put him everywhere. And it's probably, I mean, if I was a coordinator, that's something I would do with Justin Fields because he's one of more dynamic guys with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to see him in a better situation, but like himself, just him, be the guy here, But I'm glad he moved, and I don't think, like we know, Russell is not going to be the guy for the long term, but I also don't want Russell to have a bad year so that Justin Fields can.
Yeah.
Can then it's a weird situation. I don't know how they got both guys to agree to do that, if that makes sense.
Well, I think for Russ, he just wanted out of Denver.
Definitely, but Justin Fields, like they got Russ first, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, they got Russell Wilson first, then they got Justin Fields.
Yeah, but Justin were they both trades?
Yeah, they were both trades.
They were both trades. That's why. Yeah. So. We gotta see, man. We gotta see. It's gonna be an interesting season for sure. I cannot wait. We're like 90 days away?
Yeah, I think we're about 2 months away from the Hall of Fame game, and preseason, and then about 3 months from the start of the season.
Let's just hope Aaron Rodgers can make it more than 2.5 minutes.
So he's out living his best life in Europe right now, so hopefully.
Oh man, what's the life? All right. Well, thanks everybody for showing us love today and joining us. We did not miss Carlos at all. Yeah, you're right. Who what am I even talking about? Um,
The guy
is
that
Joe?
wanted us to call him the Texan back in the day.
is
Like,
that
sir,
a
we're not calling you the Texan.
is that a volleyball? Can we? What was I gonna say? We'll be back next Friday. Should be the three of us unless something changes, but
Yeah.
and I'm sure we'll talk about some other football related things, and I'm sure Carlos is gonna enlighten us with all his thoughts and bright ideas and super hot takes about the NFL and whatnot. I'm
Or not.
sure, or not, but whatever.
or put us to sleep.
Probably. But any last remarks, Rios, before we head out?
No. Like I said, glad Carlos is not here. Didn't miss him at all.
Didn't miss him at all. We're gonna be
And
watching
if the Astros lose, it's because of him. Him and him alone.
him alone, and we will be waiting outside his house.
Yes.
We know where he lives. We're gonna be watching a lot of soccer too. I see you rocking the German shirt. Um, it's beautiful having the Euros and the Copa America
Back to back.
all at the same time right now. It's gonna be crazy.
The whole day is just full football. I love
We're
it.
gonna get no sleep. We're gonna get no sleep this summer. But like I said, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you, Rios, for joining me. Thank you, Carlos, for not being here. Y ahí nos vemos la semana que viene. Peace.